It was a time when seas of plastic swallowed metal miniatures. A time of the return of narrative gaming. An age undreamed of. A golden age of wargames. I will be the chronicler of this saga. Let me tell you of the days of high adventure. Hello, adventurers. Welcome to the 11th episode of the Days of High Adventure podcast. I'm going to title this one, Tales of High Adventure. The meaning will come clear later in the show. I know there's been a severe lack of episodes since Christmas, but I've had a lot going on. Oddly, without the podcast even, I've done a lot of gaming, and I intended to record about it. I'll share some highlights with you today of the games that we did play, but I've been really focused on getting my healthy routine in order and, getting things done on that, as I mentioned in the last podcast. Well, as of last week, officially I've lost 30 pounds, so that's going really well. I'm walking 3 miles a day, every day, rain or shine. Well, I can do it rain or shine because I have a treadmill, so I don't have to go outside and walk if it's nasty weather. Although most days I just get up and walk on the treadmill before I start my day. Things that I've made that were actual changes is I'm now eating more. I'm eating 4 or 5 times a day now. I was only eating 2 times before. And I've cut soda down to 1 a day. I have 1 Coca-Cola with my dinner. Usually dinner. Occasionally I'll have it at lunch, but usually I have it with dinner. I don't eat after 8 p.m. That's just to give my body time to digest the food before I go to bed. But things are going well. I'm happy I have a good solid start. I know that the weight loss as it's gone now won't continue. But, I'll be happy to lose, 5 pounds, 10 pounds in a month. I know it's not going to be 15 every month. That's just unsustainable. Besides, I have been overweight for a long time, and I don't want to have a bunch of hanging flab. I want to give it time to, move up. And that's also why I'm doing a bit of exercising too. I have one of those machines they made in the 90s called an Ab and Back Plus. It's so I can do crunches without the need of getting on the floor. Which I will eventually just do crunches. But right now my knees and, with my arthritis and stuff, it's just a bit hard to get up and down off the floor. So as long as I can do it sitting up for now, until I'm more comfortable getting up and down, that's how I'm going to do it. So the first gaming that happened this year was we did my birthday bash. And as I mentioned in the last episode, we moved it back to February 1st because my stepson was moving out of state and, a million other things happened. So we ended up making it a dual birthday bash for me and Chris, because Chris's birthday is around that time as well. The game was great. It was just a knockdown, drag out fight between the forces of Mordor and an alliance of dwarves and men. It was a lot of fun. I got my dwarves on the table for the first time, which was excellent. So I now have a dwarf army for Middle-earth strategy battle game. And I love this game. I've got to play it more. A lot more. And so the intention is to start doing it every other month, starting here probably in April. We had a blast. It was Kevin and my buddy Carlson playing the orcs. And then it was Chris, Wayne, and I playing the good guys. Wayne played his Minas Tirith. Chris played Men of Dale, and I played Dwarves of Khazad-dûm. And let me tell you, those dwarves are tanky. Their defense is so high, it's nuts. But here's the rub with the game. I could not have had worse luck with fighting Kevin and him beating my defense. The first things he killed was he started killing the elite, most heavily armed Khazad guard. It was nuts. But the game was a lot of fun. We fought it. We played a smaller game this time than last year so that we could get closer to resolution. We got close. In fact, we could have resolved who won for certain if, we hadn't gone off on tangents talking about movies and things like that. I mean, somehow we ended up in a conversation about the movie Zulu, and then the, colonial Zulu, Anglo-Zulu War. And we just got off talking on a tangent for that for, easy, 20 minutes, half an hour in the middle of trying to play the game. So we had a lot of fun, and that's the most important part of getting all the guys together. At the end of the game, we called it a draw with a slight lead for the Forces of Good. But it wasn't certain. There were still plenty of tough orcs left, Uruk-hai and such, that could have made mincemeat of what we had left. So we called it. We had a great game. It was a draw, and I'm okay with a draw. We had just so much fun. Everybody loves playing Lord of the Rings. So, like I said, we're going to start doing it a lot more. Next thing, the following weekend. Oh my goodness, 2 weekends in a row. I played Battlefleet Gothic with Chris. He brought up his fantastic, upscaled, 3D printed Chaos and Imperial fleets. Actually, he brought them all. They all look amazing. He designed some custom Necron ships that are just the bee's knees. They're phenomenally cool. But we played this game, and I know Chris and I are going to do a Battlefleet Gothic episode really quick, in the next couple of weeks. But I'll talk a little bit about just a couple of high points. So we play this game, comes out in the very beginning of the game, but the first 2 turns, I think I'm just going to get crushed. Okay, I'm playing Chaos, and I go up there, and he just gets some great salvos in just immediately. And then I think it was turn 3. Obviously, the gods of Chaos were with me. He obliterated one of my ships. It catastrophically exploded, and then took out the shield generators on his battleship. And that's when the game swung in favor of the Chaos Fleet. And we got in there, and we just pummeled the living heck out of each other. It was a good game. It was a knockdown, drag out slobber knocker. It was insane. But we had a lot of fun with that. I think we're going to make a few more house rules for Battlefleet Gothic. Chris and I are going to work on that. But to this day, it's still my favorite secondary Games Workshop game ever. From that specialist games category. I just love playing it. It's just a blast. And there's something about Starfleet combat that just is... It scratches an itch for me. I don't know what that itch is, but I love it. And then, 3 weeks in a row. Holy crap, 3 weeks in a row I gamed over the weekend. My buddy Carlson decided he wanted to play Star Wars Legion because they released the Separatists and the robots. So he came over and I introduced him to the game. He jumped in with both feet. He bought and built a Separatist army of Clanker robots. They weren't painted yet, but I mean, that was okay. He really wanted to learn the game. And it was a great game, and those robots are tough. I took my rebels against the robots, and it was a pretty spicy game. Lots of back and forth. In the end, the robots took it. General Grievous is a beatstick, and when he's got 4 lightsabers rocking and just wrecking shop, it was just insanity. It was a lot of fun, though. I hadn't played against the robots before. So, the battle droids were a lot of fun. The droidicas with their shield generators. Oh, screw those guys. You gotta focus fire on them and get their shields down quick. Or they're just gonna be the bane of you because they roll a lot of dice. I believe they have a rainbow of dice. They use the black, the white, and the red when they shoot. So, they're a lot of fun to play against. He and I are going to play another game either this month or the beginning of April, and the plan is to have he's going to have his robots fully painted, and I'm going to finish up and have a fully painted army of Imperials. So he'll go against stormtroopers and they'll go against the robots. And he's lucky the super battle droids just came out. They were just released, so he might be able to add some real heavy armor and firepower to his army this time. But, again, I still really enjoy playing Star Wars Legion. It's that 10-year-old in me itch. It's just playing Star Wars. And man, those battle droids, they really have a very unique play style. Anybody that's played Legion knows that you can only issue orders to so many units depending on the card that you play at the beginning of the turn, which determines who goes first. Well, every time you issue an order to a unit of battle droids, they can issue an order to another unit. So the droids get to issue orders across their army if they've placed things right. So he can control when his units activate and which ones. So it really gives them a really unique playstyle. Now granted, the droids aren't tough. They don't shoot overly well. They just get a lot of dice. And sometimes a lot of dice is enough to pull it off. But yeah, it's really an interesting change to the game. I'm wondering how the clones play now. I'm looking forward to that too. But again, Star Wars, it scratches that 10-year-old in me itch. There was nothing like when I was 10, going out, taking all the action figures, taking over the front yard and turning it into the jungle battlefield. You know, this is before Return of the Jedi, because by the time Return of the Jedi came out, yes, I was still collecting the action figures, but I wasn't out in the yard playing with them very much. I was just getting ready to go into high school, and, you know, while I still messed with my toys and played with my brother, they weren't the epic battles we had between A New Hope and Empire. I mean, we used to get out there, and it would be insane. We'd have our whole collection out there, and we'd fight battles. And my dad even bought some big foam dice for us. We used to roll dice for shooting hits. So yeah, gaming is, like I've said, always been a part of me. So this game really scratches that itch, and I love it. One thing I am going to try to do is pull out the old West End Games Star Wars miniatures battles from their D6 system and use it to take it for a nostalgic spin. That's definitely going to happen in the near future as well. So, like I said, I had a pretty busy month, and I was fully intending on recording episodes covering all of these games. However, I got completely sidetracked. I was going through my old email account, and I found an email chain from my dad and I back in 2010 and 2011. And yeah, I'm so happy that I'm this email pack rat. I didn't delete any emails between my dad and I. Just kind of weird that way, but it worked out. This was a fantastic find. He and I were talking about designing a skirmish fantasy wargame, the likes of Mordheim or Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, because we love both those games. But our whole concept behind the game was, what if you could create a game where you could live out the adventures from your favorite fantasy movies or TV shows? So movies like Sinbad or Conan, or The Sword and the Sorcerer, or Krull, or Hawk the Slayers, or TV shows like Hercules or Xena. They were all fun, and they had these great adventures, and they always inspired you to, want to game more. They were the things that inspired, other than the TV shows, they inspired my D&D a lot, when I was a kid. So we got to talking, and somehow one thing led to another. We decided, let's try to make a game where this could be a thing, where you could play Talon from The Sword and the Sorcerer out there with his band of mercenaries saving people's kingdoms. I mean, that's just epic gaming right there. That's epic storytelling. What if you could tell the story, this epic story, while you're playing games? So, and that's always kind of how my Pop and I gamed. You always had some story, some reason behind a battle. I mean, even if we were playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle, there was a reason that the Dwarf King was attacking the Orcs or the Bretonnians or the Empire. There was always a reason behind a game. We never just said, oh yeah, build 1,000 points and bring it and let's game. That's just never how we did it. So we got to talking about this game, and the chain went on for almost a year, 9 months, and they just suddenly ceased. And I realized now when they ceased, but when I initially looked through the emails, I'm like, why did we stop talking about this? In 2011 is when my dad moved to Panama, and we were going to take a break while he got settled. And then he moved around a bit because he was waiting for his house to be built. I mean, there's just a lot of things. So we never got back to this. So now I want to do this. I want to put this game together. That's what I've been doing. I spent the latter half of February sifting through these messages, putting things together. And now, at this point, right now as I'm recording, I have almost a complete game system and the starts of the experience trees for leveling up your adventure parties. So the concept is each player has an adventure party. And these adventure parties go out and they collect gold, they go on quests, and you can do head-to-head play. You can have a game master and do versus monster battles, or you can do head-to-head play and have monsters in there if you have the game master and 2 players. So we had a lot of concepts for these. So I'm going to try to implement them as best as I can by deciphering the rest of the emails that talk about how we could do these adventures. So the game system itself is sort of a mashup between concepts from Mordheim and the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, because we loved both games. And so that just made sense to us to use that as our muse, for ideas and mechanics. We've also thrown in a bit of old school D&D flair as well. I'll get to that in a few minutes. And I think this concept will go over well with gamers. People still love Mordheim, and they love Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. So I think it's a good kind of marketing idea to make a game that's similar to the two of those, even if it's kind of a crossover. Plus, people are really nostalgic lately for old school things like old school D&D. So adding a bit of those elements, should be fun and exciting for people. But this really is a project that I want to complete. It was something that my dad and I were working on, and I want to finish it. I want to make it a fully realized concept and idea, and I just hope people like it. And I'm not looking to print and sell, a million books, but, I just want to get it done. And I do want to print it. I'm going to do a print run of this. I don't know if I'll have to look into how much it'll cost. Maybe I'll put up a GoFundMe or something like that when I get to that point. But we're a ways off for that point. We still got playtesting to do. And it's still an early concept, but it is something that I am going to do. And I'll be focusing a lot of my time on, so you're going to hear a lot about it as things evolve and develop. So let me share a little bit more about the ideas behind how we're going to create these parties to go and adventure around and play these games. So each adventurer party, which is what we're calling them, is led by your main character. He is your destined hero. This hero, he starts off tough, because he's the guy that brought the party together to go adventuring, to save kingdoms, to earn treasure, to kill monsters. He's the glue that holds the party together. So he's got to be the central focus of your adventurer party. Next up, you can have up to 4 companion heroes. These are his closest friends or allies. The guys that prop up the main character and support him in his decisions and the things that he does. One might be a thief and, might be the one who sneaks in and scouts for him and things like that. And finally, each adventure party has a cast of retainers or mercenaries. These are the guys who just follow the destined hero because they're looking to go on great adventures, earn fame or glory for themselves, and hoping to one day maybe lead parties of their own and be a rich war baron or warlord or whatever. And that's kind of the concept behind them. Also, retainers are basically your red shirts for the adventure parties. Someone has to get in the way and die so the heroes can live and fulfill their destinies. Another thing, this is where the kind of old school D&D comes in. Each of your heroes will have a class, and the system will be very similar to old school D&D. So things like you can be a fighter or a ranger, a wizard, a thief, a cleric, and so on, those kind of things. And you'll be able to level up in your class as well as you gain experience and play games and survive them. And if you survive long enough and gain plenty of experience points, you might be able to swap classes with your heroes. So this is still a lot of concept, especially the hero classes. We had barely touched on it. I've still got a few emails to go through, but I don't think we fully fleshed it out. So this is something I'm gonna have to work out on my own, and I'll probably hit Kevin and Chris for ideas as we go forward. But needless to say, I am really excited about this project. To be able to finish and produce a set of rules I was working on with my dad is beyond amazing. So this will be totally a tribute to the things that my dad taught me and we did together, and just a tribute to him in general and his love of gaming. So I hope that you guys will enjoy following me on this journey as I undertake this and start really solidly working on the rules. And anybody that is interested in play testing when I'm to that point, just drop me a PM on the Days of High Adventure Twitter feed, or drop me an email off of the Podbean if you're not on the Twitter. Just let me know you're interested, that way I can keep you in the loop as I go forward. I've already decided I'll be sculpting some adventurers, at least the destined heroes, to lead parties. I may do whole parties, who knows. Let's just get started, get the basics going. Speaking of sculpting, I've gotten out the tools, I've gotten out the putty, and I've started tinkering with things that I had been working on ages ago to finish them up. And then see about pulling out my dad's unfinished stuff and finishing his, and then starting some heroes, like I said, from scratch. So it's going, and I'll share progress on the sculpting stuff once I have something significant to show. Right now I've been adding belts and buckles and things like that to a few models that I had almost had done years ago, and they're at the point now where I'd rather just share them when they're complete. So I'm sure you understand that. Oh, and I almost forgot a very interesting tidbit from the emails. I'd say it was like the 10th email in 2010. My dad decided he wanted to use a specific name for the game, and I was fully behind it at the time. It's kind of like it's fate that I found this email chain, because my dad never remembered the expression from Conan right. So my dad always said it was a tale of high adventure. Well, he decided he wanted to call these rules Tales of High Adventure. And then isn't it crazy fate that 9 years later, I make the podcast and I call it the correct thing, quote from Conan, which is Days of High Adventure. So I'm going to stick with that as the name for the game, which is why it's the title of this episode, Tales of High Adventure. It'll be a cool skirmish game that we can all play and enjoy and relive our favorite movie moments. Of course, we have to create those movie moments, but I hope to give you a system that will allow you to do that. But anyway, let's get on to the hobby that I've been up to. Yes, I played a lot, and I've been getting stuff done. I almost have cleaned and put together all of the Assyrians for the first half of the army. And of that first half, I've at least primed half of those. And I'm starting to get colors on a lot of them. The Assyrian project is well underway again. I've also been working on stuff for Star Wars Legion. I've been working on Imperial Scout Troopers, because I want to get them done. Man, I love Scouts. The Imperial Scout, since I was a kid, is my favorite Stormtrooper. There's just no two ways about it. I've also given a good reread to the Hail Caesar rules and the look at the army list. And I think the rules are pretty great. I think the army lists are going to need a little tweaking, because the Assyrians wearing armor and carrying shields have the same save as an Egyptian with a bare chest and a shield. So, thankfully, in the appendix of the Army list, they gave their breakdown for how they did the points for Hail Caesar. So I'll just make the adjustments. I already talked to Chris and Kevin about it. They have no problem with it. So we'll make the adjustments, and we're not all that worried about a points balanced game anyway. So yeah, I think Hail Caesar is going to be my go-to Ancients game for now, at least. I will do a Warhammer Ancient Battles game because that was the original plan, but I think Hail Caesar is the way forward, at least for me, for now. I was looking at the Wargames Foundry site to see what I need to get to finish off the Assyrian army where I comfortably want it. I may buy more later, but where I comfortably want to build it to. And thankfully, the price increase in October did not hit the biblical ranges for some reason. So it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg more to get the army finished, which makes me happy. I mean, I would have paid it either way, but makes me happy. But yeah, I still got to get my guards, cavalry, and flesh out skirmishers and things like that for the army. But I'm really looking forward to getting this Assyrian army painted. I know I got off track on it, doing things for the show and all the rest, but this is going to stay on my desk. I'm not going to take Assyrian units off of the desk to work on a side project. And at this point, I've decided everything else is a side project. So if it's not Assyrians, it's a side project, it's something I need to do real quick. So nothing major is going to hit the desk. No new armies, maybe a unit or something like that for a skirmish game, but that's it. Although, I just said that, and I need to build a couple of different adventurer parties for playtesting Tales of High Adventure. So that'll take precedent, but they shouldn't be hard to paint. Each party's no more than like 15 or 20 models, so, and 20 models is maxed out, so it shouldn't be too bad. But anyway, that's what I've been up to. And again, I'm sorry for the delays in the episodes, but since Christmas, I've kind of been in a funk. Yes, I've been playing. Yes, I've had things. I could have recorded the podcast, but this year's been kind of weird for me. I just feel like I'm coming out of the holiday funk, and I've never had this before. Sometimes in the mid-January, but never this late. It's just kind of weird. So anyway, I'll be recording a Battlefleet Gothic episode really soon with Chris. I might even make it a two-parter. Maybe I'll record an episode with the history and the lore of the Gothic War, and then we'll do an episode talking about the game. Or maybe I'll just combine the two and make a big episode. We'll just have to see where I go. So anyway, that's me for now. I hope to see you soon. It will be less than 2 weeks before you get the next episode. I promise you that. And don't forget, if you want to interact with me directly, at Twitter, it's days_adventure. If you want to email me, it's dohighadventurepodcast@gmail.com. And I have a Facebook page as well. Just put in Days of High Adventure Podcast in the search and it will come up. I'm also, for ease of viewing, uploading the podcast to YouTube as well. Just search Days of High Adventure and you should find it. So now we'll see you in a few weeks. Until then, may your miniatures be painted, your games epic, and your dice roll hot.